Uh, Good morning, everyone. So we'll be starting in 2-3 minutes. So greetings to one and all present here. We hope that you and your families are safe and healthy. I would request everyone to please turn on your video. So it gives us immense warmth and great pleasure to grace all your presence in the interest of the entire renewable energy sector. Before we begin this webinar, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who sincerely committed to this webinar to make it a success. This event would have been impossible without the support of each and everyone present here. Before we go on further, I want to review the functionality of GoToWebinar. Your active participation is important throughout the session. Right now, I have everyone on mute to avoid the background noises that may distract you from listening to the webinar. Throughout the webinar, someone from our staff will be managing the chat functionality, so you can enter your questions and comments in the chat box throughout the presentation, which will be taken up at the end of the webinar. It gives me tremendous contentment to introduce the most esteemed personalities who have won accolades in their respective fields. Now I would like to invite and hand over the mic to Mr. Rakesh Shah, who is the Technical Sales Manager of Solace Inverter. Over to you, sir.
Hello, Satvik.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Yeah, fine. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a webinar. Today's webinar. Today, let's discuss regarding renewable energy. So, particularly, I talk about solar energy. Before that, and this pandemic situation, I want to give some message like take care of yourself and your family. Don't go out. For better framing, I am switching off my video. Let me share my screen. My screen is visible. My screen is visible. Sathi, can you give me acknowledgement? Satik,
Yes, it's visible to us. Your screen is
Thanks.
visible, yeah.
So let's begin with the presentation. I have very less time, 15 minutes, I guess 15, 20 minutes. So within that, I have to cover a lot of contents. So I will rush as much as possible. I'll share the good information. So talking about myself, I have 7 year experience in renewable energy. I work with the central inverter and string inverters both. And presently I'm working at Jinlang Suli as a technical sales manager. So my core responsibility is to give the pre-sales support to residential utility, commercial and industrial solar projects. This is a small introduction about me, and today's content will be economical growth with energy, types of energy, need of renewable energy, world's energy by 2030, and what will be the energy market in the India by 2030. So as we know, like how much energy we consume, that much will grow. So without energy, we can't grow. If you think about our evaluation of Earth, how Earth is evaluated, just we are using the energy for the basic needs to cook the foods and other things. But later we started using for so many things, so that our economy is also growth. Likewise, as much of energy we consume, our economy will grow. So here we can see the graph with the energy, the economy also growing. And by that, what we are doing, we are consuming the fossil fuels to grow. So this emitting the carbon dioxide. This is a clear graph. The next graph is the um, temperature rise and the CO2. While we are using the fossil fuel for the environmental growth, we are emitting a lot of carbon dioxide. So that it is leading to increase in the temperature, global temperature. So if you look at the 1979, the border, it was ice cubes were touching here. It was the boundary of the ice cubes, and it is reduced by 20% by 2020 till the date. So it will leads to a lot of problem like health issues. Before we were living 100 years, now the human being lifespan become 60 years, 50 years. People are dying with 50% of age because of the bad environment, and also what we consume from the market, that is also from the uh, chemical based agricultural methods. And the forest also deforestation happening, water resource is not available, and the coastal region soil erosion is happening, sea level increasing, the all the problem happening because of the 80% what we consume, it is from the fossil fuels. The 80% of CO2 emitting in the to the environment, so atmosphere, because of the fossil fuels. So not only this, in future, economical growth depends of the energy. So crude oil, what we consume for petrol, diesel, whatever it may be, it will be lost by 18 years, and gas will be 26, and coal will be 200 years. Why we want to make it empty? So let's conserve the energy for our future. Sometime we may need such kind of energy, so we should not empty all these natural resources available. And if you think about the crude oil, so as much of as much of resources we have, the price will be lower. So once the resources become decreases, demand increases, the crude oil will also increase. By that time, we will feel like a um, burden, economical burden. So already petrol rate reached 100 rupees. It may reach 1,000 also in future when there is no resources, proper resources. So, so there is a immediate requirement to go alternative sources, that is renewable energy. So talking about renewable energy, we have to know what is a conventional energy. The conventional energy is two types, like a commercial for we will buy for the money, coal, oil, natural gases, or thermal, something like that. So non-commercial firewood, the people who are villagers, they use it. And the non-conventional energy is also called a renewable energy. It's going to be, it will never end. It can be renewed. Solar energy, wind energy, tidal, geothermal, biomass, like that. So here the brief information about the renewable energy. And talking about the solar market, and particularly I'll choose only one topic here, which is solar. I'm from a solar background. So talking about only from solar just started before 60 years. When if you see the wind energy, it was started long back. So many civilization has already used the wind, but the solar just started 1941. First, the silicon monocrystalline was manufactured at 1949. Till the date, from last 20 years, the PV module market is rapidly growth. So I'll take and two things in this roadmap to 2010. So 241 USD per megawatt, and by 2018, market is happening. So in the future, what we have to do, there is a coal-based and industry power, district heat and transport, where we are all using the crude oil and non-conventional energy. By 1950, we have to reduce this to 9.8 gigaton. I mean carbon dioxide right now by 2020. So we are emitting 32 gigaton of CO2 is emitting on environment. By 2050, we have to plan to reduce by 9.8 gigaton. This is how this is will happen by three things, like electrification, heat, and transport. We have to use the electrification for the transport or building the renewable energy, and we should not waste the energy while transforming it. Efficiency of the modern technology. All the grid should be built in a proper way so that energy will not be wasted during the transmission. And talking about the demand, at 2050, more than 55,000 terawatt per hours per year is required. By 86%, we have to consume by renewable energy. And one more thing, solar energy. What will be the contribution of solar energy? Here, if you see, solar is this one, like it's a pink, something like pink mark. So 8,519 gigawatt we are going to use by solar. 6,044 from the wind. It means solar energy as a wide big market. Reduced to 1,210 for between 340 it may reduce. This is the prediction, and by 2050 it may further reduce to 165. Come again. Someone interrupted me.
So you can continue, sir.
Hello. Fine. So levelized cost of energy LCOE may reduce between 0.05 to 0.01 by 2050, and by 2030 this is our next roadmap. So it's on track, and the solar investment also increase, and employment opportunity will increase. So this is the same thing in the next diagram. So by energy transformation will happen from all these factors. So this is the same thing, like how the in the different countries, how the price is reduced and the LCO is reduced. So here the solar LCO is reduced dramatically, and the utility scale also, residential scale everywhere. And contribution of a global Asia plays a dominant role here. 2018, 2030, and 2050. 2018, like now 280 gigawatt we have installed, about 350 gigawatt you can consider by 2020, and 2030 we may reach up to 1860 gigawatt. By 2050 it will be like 4837. So Asia plays a dominant role in the installation, and India is one of it. And the talking about the investment also is more in the Asia compared to any other regions. It's 130 billions per year. And here the roadmap, maybe this is a prediction by 2030, 2080 gigawatt, 2840 gigawatt we can install, and by 2050, 8519 gigawatt. And the contribution we can see here by 2030, 9% and 20%, the Chinese playing a dominant role, and European, everyone. So because of Chinese people right now, they reduce the lot of cost, and they're helping us to build the PV market. They're they're manufacturing the inverters, PV modules, all the BOs at lower cost and exporting the world, so that everywhere we are able to achieve the levelized cost of energy, less with a less project, with a less investment, we can do the project. So this is also help us to grow in the market. And also India, talking about India, we have a manpower, so we are adapting the technology, and also everywhere in, you can see Arabian countries, so many Indians are working in the renewable energy, and there are a lot of renewable energy leaders in the world from India. So to dividing the solar into three parts, it's a utility ground mount project. It is like we're generating the power and directly exporting to the grid. So there will be no consumer in between. So grid company discoms decides how to give them power, to how to distribute the energy. And the commercial project, for the any commercial project, industrial, so like they are consuming the energy. After that, they can export extra energy, residential purpose, for a home purpose. So compared to 2012 to 2013, so 2023, the PV module market is increased. And this is of the world. And talking about India, we have some goals how to achieve the renewable energy. And in 2015, the Paris Agreement happened, December 12th, 2015. So many countries signed the Paris Agreement that they'll take care of global warming. So how they're going to take care? I mean, they have a roadmap how to achieve it. This will be, we have to declare it. According to that, India has declared it's a 450 gigawatt. It's a new thing, like we declared. At least at 40 to 60% we have to reduce from the, we have to use from the renewable energy. So non-fossil fuels we have to reduce at least 60 to 40%, whatever. And 30 to 35% of emission we have to decrease. And not only generation, we have to create the, we have to plant so many trees, so that it will also create a environment balance. It will help us to reduce the CO2. So the more motive is like using the modern energy, and the doubling the rate of renewable energy, and doubling rate of improvement of efficiency. So right now there is a efficiency issue, so a lot of losses happening in the distribution. So by these things, we can electrification. It means we have to give the electrical power to each and every village, from village to city, whomever it may be. So that is the electrification. So by this we can achieve the green growth, sustainable future. And Utilizing the solar energy, at least like 58% of a land area can give us 5 units per day. 1 kilowatt, if you have 1 kilowatt plant, so we can generate easily 5 units, 4 to 5 units easily within the 58% of land. India's richest is radiation and the radiation. So here we can install a lot of solar power plants. It's the biggest market. And talking about the present scenario, we have achieved the 94 gigawatt till like March 31st, 2020. The wind is like approximately 40 gigawatt, solar is 40, bio 10, small hydro is 5. So small hydro, as right now it's not growing, its contribution is very less. And the wind energy just grew 1.7%, but solar energy rise by 11 times. It was like from 2.6 gigawatt to 28 by March 2019. So 11 times it is increased. By 2030, we may able to achieve 450 to 600 gigawatt also. So that is possible, and lot of solar parks already working, started operating. So like Karnool 1 gigawatt and Badla 648 megawatt, and the largest solar plant in the Karnataka 2 gigawatt. It's under already one or two places already in the operation, I guess. And right now we are 22% we are consuming already from the renewable energy. So another like 18 to 30% we can add by 2050 to achieve 40% or 60% from the renewable energy. And India also potential to install 1000 gigawatt of renewable energy. So it's upcoming roadmap before 2030. Talking about 2022, we had one milestone like 175 gigawatt where our target. Out of that, 100 gigawatt from the solar, and 6 from the wind, 10 from the biomass, 5 from the hydro. But it may be very difficult to achieve right now due to this pandemic. Last year also one complete year we lost, and today again the situation is same. So I don't know, like 175 gigawatt is achievable. And ranking of India like fifth largest installed capacity in the world, and the fourth largest of a wind, and fifth largest in the solar power plants. And a lot of things happened by our government. They have like a same goal, like reduce the 30 to 30% of environment. So it means CO2 in upcoming days. And 60 cities already they have recognized to invest 1.3 billions, make the smart cities with the solar cities. And the new areas will be wind upcoming, whatever we using. Except this, there are a big market like a wind. In wind we are doing the onshore, we can do the offshore also. India is covered by the ocean completely, we can utilize it. So we have a wide area. Offshore wind plant also we can do, floating power plants, EV. So there are big markets, upcoming markets. And with the Atmanirbhar Bharat, so they are also encouraging the local manufacturers. So many PV modules and inverter companies already install their plant in India and started manufacturing also. By that, employment will increase. And these are the solar cities, 50 cities, 60 cities recognized, to be built as a smart cities or solar cities. And approved solar parks. This is in 2 gigawatt in Karnataka. So everywhere um, it's approved across the India. And here we can see up to now 7.3 gigawatt installed. Out of it, Karnataka plays a dominant role, like 7.3 gigawatt we have installed in Karnataka. Global cost, and also if you consider the all renewable energy, they're competing themselves. Not only solar, other market also like onshore wind, offshore, everything is reducing. So by that, if suppose the coal, if I mean in coal, what we are doing, the fixed cost and another like variable cost based on the what kind of import duty and what is the cost, the energy cost will be increased the kilowatt hours. But here we are making the fixed cost for 25 years. We have to pay, government going to pay fixed cost. So this is the greatest advantage, and all the energy cost also reducing. Not only solar PV is reducing very fast. With that, onshore, offshore, everything is reducing. So by this, all this we can achieve 450 gigawatt. This is the solar tariff LCO, levelized cost of energy, reduced at like 4.59 rupees per kilowatt. And by 2020 to next year, it's between the 5.16. Wind also reduced 4.47 to 4.7 by 2020 to next year. So by 2030, power generation will increase. So our demand, because we have to grow, right? We need to lot of energy, so that this renewable energy, at least we have to take for 40 to 60% from the like if you check like a 2500 terawatt per hour is required by its prediction. By that, at least 40% we have to 40 to 50% we have to give from the renewable energy, and peak power demand will reach 690 gigawatt. So for these all the renewable energy will contribute biomass, small solar, hydro, everything. So solar also plays a dominant role here. We can see that it's a very wide because of a big lot of opportunities and easy installation and a lot of space we have in India. By that we can utilize the solar energy. So solar tariff also will decrease if you compare any other tariff. Coal is in the red, sorry, black. The cost is compared to solar already crossed, and it is less than the coal. So better to go with the solar. So when it is less. And final thing is there are a lot of policies has come introduced in India to promote the renewable energy, like section in Electricity Act 2003, section 86, 61, 3, 4, all these sections um, promote the solar energy, renewable energy. So finally, final stage, one thing like we have some problem in our renewable energy right now with the solar. So we can't store the energy whenever the demand required to increase or decrease. So Simon, just we are generating and giving to grid. So we have to understand how much energy we want for the grid. According to that, we have to supply. So by it is can be achieved with only energy storage. If you have energy storage, if a customer wants, I mean, grid demands some more energy, I can discharge from the grid, um, which is higher than the PV module generation. So that is also as a upcoming market within at least a 5 or 10 years. It will be a battery storage also boom in them in India. So lithium ion batteries decreasing. I mean, lithium ion batteries cost is decreasing for that. And microgrid like in Andaman and Nicobar, here we do not have a grid. Here with the renewable energy, we can create the microgrid. It is away from the national grid. By that, their growth, I mean, they want to for industrial purpose, agriculture purpose, uh, in a remote areas using the microgrid, we can with the renewable energy, we can help us to grow. And final two slides are there, and first slide is like rural micro. And next upcoming market will be rural microgrids. What I told for the villages, we can create a microgrid. It will be completely apart from the national grid. There will be a link between the national grid to the microgrid. They can generate according to their village demand. What is their requirement? We can do by that we can help the agriculture and industrial heating and cooling application like EV already introduced and people have started buying, but we need to build a lot of infrastructure like a charging station and other things. So EV is upcoming market. Electricity based cooking. So cooking still we are using the gas. So EV electricity based cooking also will come. Advanced biofuel and concentrated heating, biomass, circular, so many things so can come and upcoming days. And finally, there are two messages from the great personalities. One is President Abdul Kalam. He's a rocket scientist and ex-president of India. What he says like cut down energy losses. We should not just waste the energy. Switch off wherever it is not required. Just don't waste the energy and utilize the technology. And we must achieve by 2030. So when he gave the statement, at least he wants to it was predicted like 25 to 25% go with the renewable energy. So this is his message. And one more thing, she's a well-educated and is a rocket scientist. And the great lady Salu Marada Timmakka, she has planted 384, 385 banyan trees in Karnataka. Educated or uneducated, it doesn't matter. Still, you can contribute to Earth. I mean, whatever I told right now, the commercial things, technological innovation, or something else. So either you're well educated and you're in a very great position, or else you're uneducated. Still, you can contribute to Earth. This is what two personalities messages for us. This is the end of my slide, and this is her. She also awarded a Padma Shri 2 years back. She has got lot of awards, and she's a role model for us. This is my end of PPT.
Okay, sir. Now, thank you, sir, for sharing your experience with all of us. So we will be taking the questions at the end of the webinar. So please keep posting your questions in the chat box. Now we'll move on to our next eminent speaker, Mr. Gajanan Patil, sir, who is the Managing Director of Urja Biosystem Private Limited. Over to you, sir. Hello, sir. Uh, are you able to unmute yourself, sir? Okay, sir, we'll take you in the next session. Now we move on to the next speaker, Mr. Tusharjit, sir, who is the proprietor of Surya Urja Technology. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, so I hope the screen is visible to everyone, right?
Sir.
So I'll start with my presentation. We are Saurya Urja Technology, and we are a Delhi NCR based solar EPC and a lithium ion battery manufacturing company. This is about us that we are a solar EPC company. We provide sustainable energy solutions through deployment of technology and innovation. We have a wide range of lithium ion batteries for different applications such as EV, storage, traction, and other special applications. Then we are also one-stop solution for battery manufacturers. We design batteries according to their specific demands and their specific dimensions. And we have, I would like to say this very proudly, that we have in-house R&D team, and which gives us an edge over the other competitors. We have around 20,000 square feet of production facility with world-class assembly equipments in Noida. I am the founder of the company. I had recently won the Indian Achievers Award 2020 and the Indian Achievers Award for Young Entrepreneur. And this is the visionary, Mr. Pawan Bharadwaj. He is the one because of which Saur Urja technology came into existence. And he is the one behind, like, he's the one who has been a continuous support throughout our journey. And because of his vision, during this time of pandemic also, we are able to work on a 7 megawatt project and a 500 kilowatt project. So whatever we are today is just because of his vision. So we come to the topic of the seminar, that is shaping the future with renewable energy, that is India by 2030. So firstly, we should know what is renewable energy and why renewable energy. So generating energy that produces no greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuels and reduces some types of air pollution. Basically, renewable energy is a clean energy. And when we talk about fossil fuels, we know that fossil fuels create environment pollution. It generates chemicals which are harmful for humans as well as to the nature. So creating economic development and jobs in manufacturing, installation, and many more. So this is the basic requirement, that why renewable energy is required. Then we talk about India. So with a current population of 1.4 billion, India stands on rank 3 in global energy market. First one is United States of America, then China, then India. Then we talk about the generated capacity of renewables versus total generation capacity in December 2019. So we see that around 22.95% of India's installed electricity generation capacity is from renewable energy sources. And when we talk about November 2020, we can see a sudden rise of around 14% of India's installed electricity generation capacity is from renewable energy. That is around 36.46%. That is a very good progress when it comes to renewable energy. And when we talk about India's renewable energy target by 2022, we can see that India aims around 175 gigawatts of energy, wherein 5 gigawatt is from small hydro projects, 10 gigawatt is from biomass, and 40 gigawatts is from rooftop solar. And when we consider about wind, it is around 60 gigawatt and 60 gigawatt from solar photovoltaic energy. And now we must be thinking that how can we achieve it? So when we talk about 2030, that is 9 years down the line, so we can't progress and we can't think of the future without new innovations and new technologies in the market. So when we talk about particularly about the solar innovations, the three types of highly investigated semiconducting materials of today are crystalline silicon, thin films, and PSCs. These are perovskite solar cells. When we talk about crystalline silicon, we all know that these are the most used semiconducting materials in panels. The only problem with them is that they lack efficiency they almost have around 30% of efficiency. And the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, that is NREL, is developing a high efficiency crystalline PV, which includes 3 to 5 multi-junction materials. And the target efficiency of these are more than 30%. And hybrid tandem 3 to 5 SI solar cells. Then NREL 6-junction 3 to 5 solar cells have reached an efficiency of 47.1%. That is remarkable under concentrated light. Also, if we talk about silicon-based bifacial technology, it can harvest solar energy from both sides of the panel with 11% more efficiency. So this is another great technology and innovation in the solar market. Then we talk about the thin films. It is second generation thin film solar cells are extremely light. These are light in weight, these are flexible, and most importantly, these are very easy to install. These have 4 materials that are used in construction. The first one is cadmium telluride. The second one is amorphous silicon. The third one is copper indium gallium selenide. And the fourth one is gallium arsenide. So when we talk about CIGS, that is copper indium gallium selenide, solar cells are highly promising in terms of efficiency. And these are highly economical for both residential as well as commercial installation. And the best part is that only these have efficiency of up to 21%. Then we talk about perovskite solar cells. These are great. These have a great amount of attention due to their low price, thinner design, low temperature processing, excellent light absorption. Next comes the combined perovskite and SiPV material have shown a record efficiency of 28% under lab conditions. So this technology is under process and hopefully we'll get it soon. Then there's a Swiss startup company known as Insolite. It is using integrated lenses as optical boosters in the panels, protective glass to concentrate light beam by 200 times with the efficiency of 30%. So this is also one of the best technologies, I would say, that is under process and will be able to get it soon. Then there is also another development of thermoradiative PV devices. You must have heard that there are solar panels which can also generate electricity during night. So this is one of the features, that these can generate electricity at night by utilizing the heat irradiated from panels to the optically coupled space, which serves as a heat link. And there is one more innovation which is not that great, but yeah, it is. So that is transparent solar windows are highly innovative applications and has achieved a solar to electricity conversion efficiency of up to 10% with their transparent materials. So as Mr. Rakesh also discussed about lithium-ion batteries, so I'll quickly tell you what lithium-ion batteries are. Lithium-ion batteries are basically rechargeable batteries. We must have seen the use of rechargeable of lithium-ion batteries in portable electronics and electric vehicles. What they do is that they tend to have a higher energy density, a voltage capacity, and lower self-discharge rate than other rechargeable batteries. And these are one of the most advantageous batteries in the current scenario. So this makes better power efficiency, as a single cell has longer charge retention than any other batteries. So there must be a question again, that why should we use or why should we choose lithium-ion batteries? If we consider about the current scenario, we know that electric vehicles have started their, like, we can see every second or third car nowadays is an electric vehicle, and even our government aims for electric vehicles. So if we see the electric vehicle sales projection till 2030, we see that if we consider two-wheelers, so EV has a 41% share in 2020. In 2025, EV two-wheelers has around 60% share, and by 2030 we aim of approximately 100% of share of EV when it comes to two-wheelers. Similarly, when we consider three-wheelers, by 2020 the share is around 91%, and when we come to 2025 it will be around 100%, and the same will be transported to 2030. So when we talk about the passenger vehicles, currently there's only 1% share in the market, but we are growing strong, and by 2025 we hope that we achieve around 29%, and by 2030, as the Prime Minister also said, that we'll be aiming for 100% electric vehicles on the streets when it comes to passenger vehicles, three-wheelers, two-wheelers, or commercial buses. Next, when we talk about the prospective market size of EV component industry in 2025, we see that we are progressing in a much faster rate than it was expected. So when we talk about the electric motors, we'll be having around $1.23 billion worth. Then batteries, $1.86 billion, power electronics, $1.47 billion, and charging stations around $0.230 billion. When we talk about the lithium-ion batteries, the government of India has given us certain subsidies, so we'll have a look on that too. So there was this article which says that joint initiative with industries to promote electric vehicles in India. So the department through Delhi Transco Limited has identified locations and issued tenders for setting up 100 e-charging stations in Delhi. And this is the article of 19 December 2020. So we are in a good shape and we are in a good speed for the transformation. And then there's another article which says government plans new policy to promote electric vehicles. Then we talk about if we are as we are the manufacturers of lithium ion batteries. So this was something very helpful for us, that PLI scheme powers up lithium ion cell making. So what it says that the companies are accelerating plans to produce lithium ion cells in the country, hoping to take advantage of rupees 18,000 crore worth of government subsidies. So government is giving around 18,000 crores of subsidy for lithium ion cell making. And also government is trying to support about 15.62 lakh electric vehicles through subsidies. When we talk about our company, we are currently working on lithium solar inverter. What is the best part in this? That when we know that whenever we set up a solar power plant, we require a separate battery, a separate inverter to store the electricity. But in our case, what we are doing is that only when you see that this compact size box has both the inverter as well as the battery, we provide lithium ion batteries for the storage and the inverter only in this cabinet space. We are also working on the ESS, that is energy storage systems. We are also delivering projects which are related to the energy storage systems, and we are doing really good when it comes to innovations, and we have a lot more innovations in the future. So if you want to know how you can be a part of this revolution and you want to expand your business, you can contact us on the email addresses and the phone numbers which is mentioned here, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Or if you have any queries or any doubts, we'll be more than happy to help. So that was it from my side. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience with all of us. Now we'll move on to our next speaker, Satish sir, who is coming on the behalf of Gajanan sir. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, friends.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
जी जी जी. Sarthak ji, I am not able to see the video screen.
We are sharing this screen, sir.
Okay.
You can start, sir. The screen is visible now.
Okay. Good morning, team. Yeah, myself is Satish, and I am representing our company called Urja Biosystem. Unfortunately, our director, Mr. Gajan Patil, is not able to join because of his big network in that some remote area. So I am representing this webinar to you. Ji, sir. Our company is called name Urja Biosystem Private Limited. We are basically in waste management, and we are a Pune, Maharashtra-based company. Our company started 2006, and we are in this field from 2006. Our main focus, our core area of working is biogas, basically wet waste management and biogas to power and biomass-based green energy projects. So we are a leading turnkey projects provider, waste management and biogas to power bio-CNG projects. Basically, Urja is working in this field. So Urja is committed to find proper solutions, green solutions to replace the renewable and fossil fuels in a manner which will value the people, respect the earth. We are in this field from last 15 years with a team of young and dynamic engineers. Sarthak ji, next slide. Ji. basically we'll see what is meant by biogas. Biogas is a typical production product of wet waste management. If we say digest our wet waste is different types of waste. Say food waste is there, vegetable waste is there, dung is there, poultry litter is there, waste mud is there. So such kind of wet waste is available plenty of around us. So if we treat this wet waste through anaerobic condition, then we generate biogas. Basically biogas is a composition of methane almost 50 to 60%, then some part carbon dioxide which is an impurity which is almost 30 to 40%, some part H2S which is impurity hydrogen sulfide, and moisture and some trace gases. So what we can see, methane is a key component, isn't it? If we see the homologous series of say methane, then ethane, propane and butane mixture is called LPG. So key component is methane, which is our source of energy. This methane can be converted for different, it can be used for different applications. We'll see what are those applications. So what we are doing, we are basically giving services, we are giving products, different products for household, where we are generating wet waste, say from kitchen, from different goshala, for different dairies, for different poultry industries, hotel industries, sugar industries, and many more. Till now, we have supplied almost 10,000 plus household biogas plants in Maharashtra. In Maharashtra rural area, the farmers are having cattle. So what we are doing, we are supplying biogas. Earlier biogas were available there, but they were all typical constructed biogas and having lot many problems. So we have replaced that trivial biogas plants, constructed biogas plant, with the help of ready to install prefabricated biogas plant. And till now we have supplied 10,000 plus such units. So there are more than 20 community-based biogas plants. In this sector, what we are doing, we are collecting the wet waste available in village. Okay, say like dung, food waste, vegetable waste. We are treating through biogas, and whatever gas is generated, it is supplied through pipeline. Till now, we have supplied almost 20 plus such projects, and basically those projects are in Maharashtra and in Chhattisgarh. We did 6 bio-CNG projects also. Basically this bio-CNG trend is coming, very upcoming trend now. So different bulk waste generators like sugar industry is there, poultry industry is there. So they are looking for this bio-CNG application, and we have made 6 such projects all over India in different states. So we have complete expertise for design, supply, and installation of biogas, and these biogas related applications or complete waste management systems also. We provide our services to Nagar Parishad, villages, municipal corporations, to townships. Wherever waste is generated, even that waste, basically core focus is on wet waste, but even we are providing our services to dry waste also, to cater complete waste management services. So we have domestic household biogas plants, then dairies, goshalas, poultries. Industrial applications are also there. See, many industries, they generate biogas out of their, say, effluent treatment plant or STP. So what we are doing, we are providing suitable application as per their requirement. We collect this biogas and then fire into their boiler. We collect this biogas and then use in their kitchen. So likewise, different applications are available. So Urja is doing, basically providing services in this sector. Sarthak, next slide. G. Basically what we do, we identify the bulk waste generator. Bulk waste means what? Bulk waste generator means what? We have SWM 2016 rule, solid waste management 2016 rule, and based on this rule only, whatever applications or whatever services we are providing, it is mandatory for the end user as well as to service provider to comply with those rules. Okay, so what we are doing, we are typically carrying out the waste audit. We are identifying the bulk waste generator. Who are those? Suppose any hotel industry is there, and they are generating say 500 kg of waste. Then we understand how the waste generation pattern is there, whether it is daily, whether it is weekly, whether it is monthly, how the waste generation pattern is there. We understand their utilization, their requirement. Somebody says, I want power generation. Then we convert that waste into some biogas and then to power. So we make DPR accordingly. Basically, government is supporting such projects, means waste management project, through very good subsidy. So our central body is Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Then we have different SNAs like MEDA, Maharashtra Energy Development Agency, JEDA, Gujarat Energy Development Agency, CREDA, Chhattisgarh Renewable. Likewise, SNEs are there. So what we are doing, we are preparing complete DPR, and with the help of DPR, the client can get good amount of subsidy from those central body or state bodies. Okay, so we provide complete EPC solution for this waste management, whatever available at the site with the client. Next slide. G. Basically, as I said, once we treat this wet waste, okay, we treat this wet waste with anaerobic condition, means in absence of oxygen, then biogas is generated. Whether that wet waste is food waste, vegetable waste, cow dung, poultry litter, press mud, or anything. If it is treated anaerobically in absence of oxygen, it gets converted to biogas. And as we see, biogas is containing methane, which is the energy, type of energy. This energy can be used for thermal application. This energy can be used for cooking application. This energy can be used to convert into CNG. We call it CBG, compressed biogas. This energy can be used for power electricity generation. And above all, basically, this is, I will say, this is one very good important product that we are getting is biofertilizer. Whenever we treat this wet waste, we got this energy. This is bioenergy, green energy. But along this green energy, we got the very important product, which is biofertilizer, which is outcome of this biogas plant. So what we are doing, complete comprehensive O&M services we are providing, long-term service agreements. So last 15, as we are working in this field from last 15 years, we provide complete long-term service agreements to our clients so that their plants are properly running. See, I will share our list of projects. We are done almost 200 plus projects till now. You can go to any project and we ask them how about our services and how they are working. So because of this long-term service agreement, they are working very properly. So assistance in bio-CNG sales. If any client is making this bio-CNG, then we are ready to help him to sell this bio-CNG. Now Satat Yojana is doing the same thing, but long back we started this thing in 2009 only. So we also provide assistance in biofertilizer. Basically, whatever slurry is coming out of this biogas plant, it is already value-added product. But if you make some proper value addition, say like phosphate salt addition, like neem cake addition, or anything, so we make proper formulation for these biofertilizers as per crop requirement, and that helps to get more benefit to the client. Next slide. So as we see, biogas is basically waste management facility. Okay, whatever food waste, vegetable waste, poultry litter, cow dung, spent wash, press mud, jaggery waste, brewery waste, sewage waste, etc. All those waste can be treated properly through biomethanation process. It's a process, and basically there is huge paradigm shift in our thinking process. See, we are looking biogas as energy generating device. Okay, we as an Indian are looking this biogas application or biomethanation process as energy generating device, but European countries, they are treating this biogas facility as waste management service. Okay, so they are compulsorily making it, but till now such compulsion is not there. It's just willingness, or people are doing key whether to do. It's a least priority sector, I will say. So that's why this paradigm shift need to be there. It's a waste management facility and not an energy generating device. But still, we as an Indian is having huge market share. So whatever we think is right, that I will say. So still, if you look this biogas as an energy generating device, it is very much beneficial. That some part we'll see after in different slides. So basically, from digestion, anaerobic digestion of this wet waste, we get raw biogas having caloric value of say 5,000 kilocalorie per meter cube. Once this biogas is purified, say with the help of different systems are available, PSC is there, pressure swing adsorption is there, some water scrubbers are available there, some cryogenic scrubbers are available there. We purify this biogas, remove the complete hydrogen sulfide and the CO2 carbon dioxide, then its caloric value can be taken to 10,000 kilocalorie per meter cube. I will say per kg. So which is certainly more than LPG or your natural gas caloric value. Okay, more than or equivalent to. So another output is biofertilizer. This highly NPK organic fertilizer that we are getting. This is useful for organic farming, floriculture, etc. And if you see, the organic farming culture is nowadays very much developing. Okay, the corona impact, if you saw, people are now ready to use organic fruits, organic vegetables. So to get that organic vegetation, this digested slurry works very good. Next slide. Okay, so as we see, biogas is having different application. Say for household purpose, if I go for biogas, then it's family type biogas. From this, whatever gas is generated, it is used to replace our LPG, or it is used to replace coal. It is used to replace the dung cakes. Okay, as I said, we have provided 10,000 plus such prefabricated biogas, and they have served at 10,000 houses. Now they are free from this. They are called smokeless houses. The smokeless concept, smokeless village, smokeless house concept can be easily proven with the help of this family type biogas plant. And it is very easy to install. It is a prefabricated biogas. So for household purpose, it will be used to replace LPG. Okay. For another purpose, suppose this dairy is there or say Goshala is there, then we can convert this biogas into power, or we can use this biogas to run their kitchen. So power application can be there. And third and important application is this biogas can be converted to CNG. Okay. Now as we see, government of India has decided to reduce the fuel import, CNG import of fuel import by 50% in by 2025, isn't it? And that's why they have agreed to set up 5,000 CNG projects across India. They have kept very good amount of subsidy for such projects. So this biogas can be converted to CNG after certain proper purification. So we are doing that also. Basically, biogas is used for cooking purpose. Biogas is for power generation purpose, and biogas is used for this CNG application. Next. Okay. If we compare what is biogas and CNG, then we can easily see from this slide. See, raw biogas is having 50 to 60% of methane. Okay, CO2 is 30 to 40%. Rest some trace impurities are there, hydrogen sulfide, moisture, and other siloxane, etc. So raw biogas is having 50 to 60%. Then CO2 is 30 to 40%, 35 to 45%. H2 is 500 ppm to 30,000 ppm, and trace amount of other impurities. And if you go for bio-CNG, if you purify this gas, okay, then we must have 90 to 98% of methane. Okay, that means what? We are removing completely other impurities, and we are just purifying the methane content. We are enriching the methane content. CO2 is 2 to 5%, 2 to 6%. H2S must be less than 10%, 10 ppm. Moisture, other siloxanes, trace impurity should not be present there. Okay, this means what? Our biogas, once it is purified, it is equivalent to natural. It is from natural resources, isn't it? We are making from this food waste, we are making from this dung, we are making from this waste mud. So it is available naturally. So this biogas, bio-CNG, is from natural resources, and it is exactly similar to natural gas in properties, in composition. That's why it can direct replacement to natural gas, LPG, or CNG. So this bio-CNG, once produced, it is also called CBG, compressed biogas. Okay, it can be used for natural gas distribution. It can be used for household purpose. Means suppose I stay in Pune metro city. Okay, so we have pipeline gas. So this bio-CNG can be introduced into that pipeline. It can be used for industry to replace fossil fuels like furnace oil, like diesel, petrol, whatever fossil fuels are used there. So it can be used for vehicles. So different applications are there. Based on our applications, we can use this biogas. So vehicle fuel, food processing industry, bakeries, plastic molding, different applications are there. And as we see, whatever the inputs are can be from distilleries, sugar industries, breweries, paper and pulp industries, slaughterhouses, STP, palm oil, starch processing, food processing, and from different industry. This can huge quantity of biogas can be generation is possible here, and we can convert this gas into CNG. Next slide. So basically, we have started in 2006. So from 2006, the journey has been begun, and till now, many applications we did. Means 10,000 plus family deep biogas plants is there. 200 plus biogas to power we had made projects. We have made. We have made projects in different countries like Tanzania, Zambia, Gambia. So it 2019 or 2020, I will say, till now we have done 6 bio-CNG projects in different states like Telangana, Maharashtra, at Vizag, Mumbai, Hyderabad. So basically, this is a brief company history. I will say. Next slide. Our director, Mr. Gajan Patil, he's a chemical engineer, and he did his MS in clean technology from UK. Then from 2000, he worked there for 3 years with London Corporation, company called Wastewatch Services, environmental consultancy from London. Then he has conducted different environmental status report of Pune city in 2007. Then Pune has installed that decentralized biogas plant, first time in India. So we did 3 projects here in Pune. So he has provided consultancy to different organizations for 1 megawatt to 1.5 megawatt as a consultant, and more than now 200 plus different installations of medium-sized biogas plants for biogas to power projects. So he's having almost 20 years plus experience in this solid and liquid waste management. Basically, our area is implementation of sustainable waste management, DPR preparation, then waste to energy projects, MSW audits, then mechanical composting, RDF projects, animal waste treatment plants. Next. This is our advisory team. Next slide. We have a team of mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, civil engineers, electrical engineers, and having very good experience in this field only. So almost all people are having 10 to 15 years experience. So this is a combination of different engineers, means chemical, mechanical, civil, etc. Next slide.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. So you have 5 minutes remaining. So please conclude fast.
Acha. So basically, this is our team. You can take next slide. Next slide. This is our mission that we are going to establish and promote the technology for decentralized processing of organic waste to generate energy. Basically, we are focusing on the decentralized projects. Okay. Many people thought we are collecting the waste at one site. Say for Pune, I will say one company is doing project for 300 tons of waste. They are collecting 300 tons of waste from different areas of Pune, and they are treating at one source. But it's quite difficult to manage this thing. Okay. So decentralized processing plants is the best thing. So basically, we are focusing on decentralized mode. Then vision to be leader in conservation of energy, environment. And our values are commitment to our customers, clients, society, professionalism, dialogue and transparency, and respect the law. Next slide. So this typically one testimonial from one company, from an organization called Avi Broilers Nashik. So they did one project on poultry litter. Basically, poultry litter is having 2 types of impurities. One is having the feathers, which is very light, and another one is that calcium, that silica content, which is very heavier. So to separate out these 2 opposite impurities, one is very light and another one is heavier. So it is very difficult, and that's why earlier the projects for these broilers, means this poultry are not working. But we made that we separate those impurities properly, heavier impurities with silica and lighter impurities with feathers, and that's why our projects are properly running. So this is one project from Nashik, Avi Broilers. So now this Avi brawlers is completely independent for power need, and they're generating 24/7 100 kilowatt power from this liter only. Next slide. So we got different awards. It's a huge list. So I will just skip this slide. Next slide. These are typical our plant photos. The digester, engine. We are promoting Kirloskar make engines. So balloon intermediate storage are there. So scrubbing, impurity removal for impurity removal. Next slide. So I will take a few minutes on this. This is a product called PROM, phosphate rich organic manure. So we have developed with the help of BIF, Bharati Agro Industries Foundation, this NGO from Pune. So they are working for the farmers and rural area. So they have made one culture, and with the help of this culture, we have converted the digested slurry to granular PROM, phosphate rich organic manure. This is direct replacement for DAP, diammonium phosphate, and SSP, single superphosphate. So this granular form PROM is very much accepted by the people, and at market price, present market price for different companies are almost 18 to 22 rupees, 18 to 25 rupees, I will say, and we are selling this PROM at 15 rupees per kg. So very good product, and as it's completely digested, it's the completely organic manure, having manure. So that's why the results are very good. We have made almost 3 projects in Rajasthan for this PROM manufacture, and 4 projects in Maharashtra. Next slide.
Sorry, sir. Sir, we have time constraints. So can
Okay,
you
okay,
be
no
little
problem.
faster?
So basically, our client list, different client list, no issue. So thank you, dear team, for giving me opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
These are our branch. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience. Now, we will move on to our next speaker, Mr. Vineet Das, who is a renewable energy specialist. Over to you, sir.
Hello, am I audible
Yes, sir.
and visible too? I hope.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So quickly, I'll try to finish my presentations because I am rounding out of my battery. So I hope all you are doing well and all your loved ones are safe. Good morning to the panelists and a warm welcome to all our invitees and participants attending today's sessions on uh, shaping the future with renewable energy, India by 2030. I must praise the organizer for such kind of webinar, an interesting topic since the sector is in paradigm shift, or we can say the turning point where we are experimenting a lot with business models, technical experimentations, innovations in project management, scaling of solar applications, which has driven the tariff below 2 rupees. So as per the utility scales of solar projects are concerned, it is very much crucial for the capacity boost on the Indian power sector. But we should not ignore the decentralized renewable energy, as it is rooted to renewable energy rural populations. So many of India's most underserved people today lived in countries climate vulnerable regions with climate access and healthcare, educations and livelihoods. The poor are among the least equipped to cope up with the climate change threat despite being overrepresented in climate vulnerable areas. So in India, poor and marginalized communities faced the dual challenges of low socioeconomic development and extreme vulnerabilities to climate change. Yes, so providing reliable access to electricity through decentralized renewable energy creates an opportunity to stimulate low carbon socioeconomic development in climate vulnerable regions such as rural part of India. Here, although there has been a significant improvement in India's rural household electrifications, almost 97% as per latest figure, 97% rural villages has been electrified. But still, the quality of the power is an issue, and the power that they get are intermittent. So electricity availability for health centers, schools, rural enterprises are very, very limited. So here what we are trying to say is electricity is one of the key enablers of socioeconomic development. It has access to reliable electricity as can improve the working hours of the staff, availability of water, diagnostics services in hospitals, improve the learning environment of schools, increasing the school attendance and the quality of education's deliverables in schools, and enhance the productivity and income of rural livelihoods. So here in decentralized solar energy solutions are increasingly considered for bringing reliable electricity to community facilities, especially in climate vulnerable areas. Although decentralized solar solutions are not entirely immune to extreme events, they are relatively more resilient to the centralized electricity systems like the existing grid solutions we do have in our society. As we know, the Paris Agreement that has been signed on 2015 governs the framework of a standard Sustainable Development Goal 13, and requires all signatories countries to seek promote low emission resilient development pathways that limit the temperature rise well below 2 degree or ideally 1.5 degree centigrade. So to achieve this target, all the countries need to inevitably decarbonize the existing energy system and shift to cleaner energy. Several decentralized renewable energy technologies highlighted in the report, in report published by World Bank, prove to be an alternative to conventional sources of energy, while also reducing the level of emissions. So here in India today, we are facing a dual challenge of meeting its development goals while also reducing the climate change impact. So decentralized renewable energy can contribute to both goals by providing opportunities to power healthcare, educations, and livelihood in communities most of the risk from climate related effects. So so what exactly we are talking when we say it's decentralized renewable energy. So here I have distinguished the electricity access applications into three segments: health, health as well as educations and livelihood. So in the health sector, access of electricity can affect working hours, staff availability, quality of services, water availability, medical diagnostic services. So a study in Maharashtra recently on electric outage frequency and maternal health service usage found that improving electricity supply may increase the institutional delivery rate, in maternity wards, and improve the overall maternal health outcomes. So another study is exploring factors, what they are saying, that they influence women decisions regarding their place of child delivery, found that in good infrastructure including electricity supply, water, clean toilets, affect of women's satisfactions of their services while they are going for delivery in the maternity ward. public health center or any small rural hospitals kind of things. So here we have various kind of applications that we can see: vaccine refrigerations, portable maternity kits, baby warmers, centrifuge for blood analyze. So when we take the samples of blood, we need to keep on centrifugal so that it won't get clotted. So yes, that is again applications. And yes, there can be applications in solar power operation theaters. So in education sectors, access to electricity can influence the learning environment, school attendance, most importantly, and the availability and quality of educational services. Access to electricity can contribute positively to education's outcomes through better living conditions for students, teachers, and school staffs. It can improve the likelihood or livelihood of that particular children, especially girls who are attending complete who are attending the schools, by enhancing the access of clean water, uh, sanitations, lighting, space heating. So in cooler environment, we can get this kind of we can do space heating solutions for the states where there is extreme temperature like 2 to 3 degree of centigrade. The children has to uh, go to schools and sit and mm, attend for the lectures or classes. And electricity and can also provide opportunities to use the teaching aids for equipment such as computer, projector, or science equipments. So so as here in the livelihoods, what we can say, for farm-based livelihoods, energy is relevant to the entire value chain for productions and marketing. At the production stage, it is widely acknowledged that mechanizations of activities such as sowing, irrigations, spraying, and harvesting, such as can improve farms and labor productivity. However, only 40 to 45% of agricultural sector is mechanized in India. A survey estimate suggests that the untapped market potential for mechanizing of the productions level, not only the irrigations part, I'm excluding the irrigations part, through clean energy, is close to $30 billion. Now you can imagine, like, what kind of potential we have. Access to reliable electricity plays a crucial role in wide range of non-farming activities, uh, such as manufacturing, uh, process heating, cooling service, cooking, informations and communications technology, mechanical processing industries, manufacturing, as well as the repair industry. So reliable electricity is particularly crucial for small business, which, unlike larger establishments, cannot afford backup power generators. So in 2019 study by Selco Foundations in Bangalore documented 65 micro enterprises experience, found that the sustainable energy solutions help them to add more product and services were otherwise available to them due to lack of reliable electricity supply. So we can clearly understand that how what kind of necessary is there to electrifying the rural areas. So this is my a brief study for the next 5 slides. I will be showing you each and every applications and what is the total installations. And here you can see we have considered only the Maharashtra state of for cold storage, and subsequent slides will talk about the other applications where you can see the other states we have considered, what are the major players, typical system costs, key financier availables in the market currently, what is the market potential. This is very important. So we have identified the market potential, and what are the impact of livelihoods. So that is again monthly data per month, how it will be getting impacted to the livelihoods and the SDG impact. So so here, though there is an established network of cold chain infrastructure, they mainly focus on distributions and large scale storage. This makes inaccessible to farmers looking for storage post harvest, forcing them to sell their perishable product immediately after harvest. So micro cold storage address this type of discrepancies. So a dried produce can be stored for longer durations, as we all know, to about 12 months kind of durations, and thus can be sold at a higher value, which could otherwise fetch lower prices in harvesting season. Solar dryers provide a more efficient and faster method of drying as compared to sun drying. So the traditional process for sun drying, which is the traditional process of food preservations. So going back to the next slide. Yes. So most rice mill in India is done through the diesel powered. The farmers paid a majority of their income by on buying diesels, which cuts at their savings and profit. Solar powered rice mills provide a cheaper alternative to diesel powered rice mills in the long run, with while increasing output at the mills at the same time. Solar refrigerations provide a way in which rural enterprise running cafes or small petty shops can store their cold and chilled food items like cold drinks or paneer, buttermilk kind of things, which are easily perishable in the normal summer and temperature. So not only do they prevent wastage of such food items, but also allow the entrepreneurs increased income because of better food variety. In addition, solar power medical freezers cater to rural need of immunizations for vaccine and blood bank collections. So that is again a huge area of applications. So in India, decentralized dairy industries keeping milk fresh in is a priority. So it as it needs to get refrigerated within a few hours after milking due to unreliable rural electricity, which may dairies depending on the expensive diesel generators. So solar powered and thermal storage are the solutions to reduce the milk wastage. So here we can use that solar technology for chilling the milk or to preserve the milk. Yes, in spinning industries as well, because we know the manual work required for reeling the yarn in a form of thick silk reeling. Reeling is a slow process, so it limits the productivity. Solar power spinning and reeling machines overcome these challenges while positively impacting weavers' livelihood. So especially in the areas with limited electricity access. So these are based on the investors interactions. And so when we interacted with the lot of investors and funding agencies or the financing institutions, uh, an analysis of the policy landscape are reported challenges. The following these are the recommendations. Following are the recommendations and the key challenges that we can address are very critically. um, so the key challenge is that lack for adequate process amongst mature organizations. So lack of scalable business models, that is very crucial nowadays. There is a risk perception among the financer due to high dependence of enterprises and government subsidies. And the Indian governments are kind of they are restrictive norms. The norms are restrictive in nature for investments by the foreign funding institutions. So competing government policies, low awareness regarding emerging technologies. So there are a lot of emerging technologies around there throughout the R&D centers or the premium institutes like IITs, NITs. They are doing a lot of research, but this kind of research are not coming to the ground because of lack of knowledge, or kind of they can't at this point, that is not scalable. So that is again a key, those are the key challenges, whereas what we can do as a way forward to bridge the finance to address risk related to delay in the subsidies dispersal. So yes, that we everyone knows that what happens when we talk about subsidy in solar sector or in renewable energy sectors. So yes, so the risk mitigations mechanisms need to be done. So what sort of risk are there, whether if we are supplying power to the rural households, so those households are, whether those households are uh, they can pay the tariff properly or not. So that is again risk. Support for new and emerging business models, long-term patent model, patent capital for investors to scale up. Yes. Just a second. Explicit recognitions of solar power applications for rural livelihood schemes. So we need to recognize that what sort of applications can drive their livelihood in such a way, whether they will profitable enough to do this kind of service. And yes, obviously, since because it's an the economy is not great, as we are talking about the utility scale solar power plant in city, or large investors are coming, so we have to depend on the subsidy initially, unless and until this business model is scalable and we can reduce the cost uh, with so that to cope up with other technologies, we need to depend on the subsidies. Thank you so much. This is a brief presentations within a short span of time what I prepared, and try to convey my decentralized solutions and role uh, towards this webinar. Thank you so much.
It was an informative session. We thank all our speakers, and now we move on to the questions which were brought up by our audience. So, the question is to Shajit sir. So, are you comfortable in answering the question now? Sorry.
Hello.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, okay, sir. Sir, the question is, I am a small scale project developer and looking for higher power efficiency batteries. Would you mind suggesting some batteries for it?
The answer to this question is that whenever we suggest batteries to any of our clients, we require certain technical informations from their end, like what is the voltage which they are requiring, what is the application which they are requiring for, and what is the AH which they are requiring. So to answer this question, I would like the concerned person to connect with us and send us the technical specifications so that we can suggest him the best batteries which he can use for his project.
Thank you, sir. The next question is there any subsidy available for batteries used in solar projects, or is it clubbed with the solar projects and EVs?
Yeah, so answer to this is that subsidy is only available on residential projects. There is no special subsidy for batteries. And when we talk about the subsidies which are there for residential projects, they are only with the on-grid connected solar projects. That means the without battery system.
Okay, sir. Now we'll now to question is to the Satish sir. So, are you comfortable in answering the questions now, sir?
I'm available.
Okay, sir. Sir, so the first question is how much subsidy available from government for the biogas plants?
G. If you go for 1 ton biogas plant, then the subsidy is available from Ministry of New and Renewable Energy (MNRE) is 4 lakh rupees. But if you look for food waste based plant, the local body can give more subsidy. Okay, because they need to treat this waste, so local body can support you in a better way. But if it's for dung waste, poultry litter waste based plant, then you can get 4 lakh subsidy from MNRE.
Okay, sir. Sir, the next question is yes.
G.
Yeah. How much a society-based biogas plant will cost to manage 1 ton of food waste?
Okay. See, from for this 1 ton food waste and vegetable waste, the cost expected is almost 35 lakh rupees.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yeah,
G.
sir. Thank you, sir. Now, I would ask the questions to Vinit, sir. Sir, are you available right now in answering the questions? I think he is not in the meeting. So, uh, I would like to thank all the speakers for answering the queries of our participants. In case you have any more questions, do feel free to mail us and we'll get back to you. We are thankful to all the speakers at this webinar. We are grateful for the time and effort you all took to share your thoughts and experiences with our audience. Since we are entering a new growth phase of renewable energy sector in India, your comments are very timely. I believe our audience can benefit from your experience. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and we hope that our users will use your suggestions in their renewable energy journey. Thank you again for your contribution. We would like to invite you all to create an account of Renewable Energy Mart and grow your business. We have posted the link in the chat box and we will be sharing the recording of the session with all the participants shortly via mail. Please give us your feedback so that we can improve on our activities. Thank you for all the participants for the time. Stay safe and stay healthy, all of you. We will meet you in our next webinar in coming weeks.